The Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors: EliteForm.com, IgnitionAPG.com, PlayUSA at PLAEUSA.com, and Sorinex Exercise Equipment at Sorinex.com. And now, the Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast. Welcome to Iron Game Chalk Talk with your host, Ron McKeefery.
Every time our athletes walk into this weight room, they're going to be pushed to the max.
Let's go! Everything you got!
On this podcast, hear Coach McKeefery's straight talk about training, featuring the top strength and conditioning professionals from around the world. And now, here's your host, Ron McKeefery.
Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and this is episode number 111. Iron Game Chalk Talk is a weekly podcast where I bring you experts in the field to talk shop. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube, or join the mailing list at ronmckeefery.com to stay up to date with the latest guests and anything else that I have going on. This week, extremely excited to have a former staff member, Derek Millender, with us. Derek is the head strength coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, they were in the finals this year, one game short. But this guy, I can promise you, just knowing the guy, there is going to be a big fat ring on his finger here very, very soon. And you know, obviously, he's working with some of the best players in the world and just doing a fantastic, fantastic job. We get into a little bit of basketball programming, just a daily training session, how he's able to do that while, you know, on the road and being mobile, and you know, and then him himself, how he stays, you know, sharp and continually learns how to have this big toolbox, this big mind of drills and exercises and things like that to throw at these guys, because we all know, you know, it's got to have lots of variety in your program. But talk about all that, tons more. We want to make sure we get to that. But before we do, I want to recognize all of our sponsors. We have Sorinex.com, EliteForm.com, PlayUSA.com, and of course Ignition APG. And I can't say enough about Ignition. We're in a t-shirt actually today, and the people there are just fantastic people, doing it the right way, mind, body, and spirit. Constantly being involved in their community and the communities in which their athletes participate. Have had tons of success with the people they got. I think there's a list of, you know, the top 10 rookies that are going to make an impact, and 2 of them were guys that trained with Ignition before the draft. But, you know, they're just fantastic people. Tons of resources, tons of things that they're involved with. We talked about Fit Light in this episode, and they're involved with Fit Light. But, you know, their Pro XO protein formula for those sports or coaches that are listening that, you know, that can give more than 30% protein. This is a fantastic product. Their parent company is a pharmaceutical company, and so this is, you know, made by them. It's got, you know, it's been certified to be clean and you know, informed choice, informed sport, and I've tasted it. It's a great tasting product. So reach out to Ignition and get them to send you some samples. You know, follow them on Facebook or Twitter. And not just because of this particular product, but because of all the things that they have going on. And make sure you stay up to date with them. But thank them when you have the opportunity for being involved with this show and helping to bring it to you guys for free. Don't want to waste any more time. I know you're going to get a ton out of Derek's episode. Sit back and enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, really, really excited to have a friend of mine, Derek Millender. He's a head strength coach with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Had a phenomenal season. You know, came up a little bit short, but you know, there's nothing taken away from this guy because he's a stud. I've known him. He was on our staff at South Florida way back when, and has done nothing but great things ever since. And so, man, I know you're in the middle of the developmental league. You got about 15 minutes here, so we're gonna go quick. But I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Well, Coach, first and foremost, it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here today. You know, just thank you for giving me the opportunity to be where I'm at today. You know, my journey actually started back in 2004 at the University of South Florida as an intern. You know, we had a mutual friend who was so gracious enough to recommend me to come meet you. At the time, I was personal training at downtown in South Florida or South Tampa. And, our friend recognized us and he thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to work in a team environment. I came in, no knowledge of all about, South Florida and what you were doing down there. And you gave me an opportunity. And that's how it started for me. And from there, I got a chance to go to the Cleveland Indians, where I worked for 2 years under Tim Maxey, who's now the head strength and conditioning coach for Major League Baseball. So I did 1 year in extended spring training, 1 year in the AA system. And then from there, I got an opportunity to go to the Cleveland State University in downtown Cleveland. I was there for 4 years and had a lot of success there. Had an opportunity to work with guys for 4 years and see a freshman, turn into a mature senior, work with 17 varsity sports and get an opportunity to program for, for soccer and for baseball and for, all different sports that I never got an opportunity to work with. So it was a great learning experience for me. And then from there, I had the opportunity to come to Cavaliers as an assistant, and which I did that for 3 years. And now this is the start of my 3rd year as the head strength conditioning coach.
Well, man, we so freaking proud of you and all you've accomplished, and it was it was seen very very early in those early workouts, those taking the interns through workouts, and just your professionalism and how you approach things, and it's no wonder why you're having such great success, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be a big fat ring on your finger here pretty soon. But buddy, I know you're busy. I want to get into a little bit of programming. Just obviously you work with one of the 2 best teams in the freaking world. Talk a little bit about basketball programming at the elite level. You got this long off season, in season. You got a very short off season. How do you program year round?
Well, first and foremost for us, this starts for us in January. Typically for us, July, August. We're thinking about what we need to do to get better for the next season. And what we have in Cleveland is very unique in terms of being able to integrate sports science into our programming. I'm just a part of a huge team, and I'm able to do my job at the highest level because of the guys around me. That starts with our head coach giving us an opportunity to test guys, in season, which is a big part of getting solid, numbers to objectively know where guys, baseline numbers, know where guys are at. So we start, every guy's first day with us, going through an extensive, testing, program. And there's a series of different movements that we do. There's also a psychological component as well, too. So we can look at, how guys are wired, how they think, that those type of things will help us coach guys and know, okay, with that guy, you can be a little more aggressive. This guy, he's a little bit more cerebral, so you may have to be a little more creative in your ways. So all that is kind of how it starts for us. So based on that data that we get, my job is to break down individualized programs for those guys, throughout the season. And also I take into consideration as to how the head coach plans on using this player. If the guy is, say, for example, if he's a big man, but he's undersized, and the coach says, this guy needs to have a motor. I need for him to go baseline to baseline, 10 minutes a night. I don't need him tired, so make sure that's a big part of your, job. So for me, okay, this guy needs conditioning. Mm-hmm. He needs low impact conditioning. So we got to go to our toolbox and figure out what are the best ways to condition this athlete without, causing overuse injuries, that can happen throughout the course of a season.
With the strength training specifically, I mean, I know having come and watched the game, watched you work, a lot of it has to occur kind of on the court, and things along those lines. How many days a week are you trying to get in season, and kind of what's a typical session look like?
Well, mandatory for every guy is 2 total body lifts a week. And that's just the bare minimum. That's, for a guy that, he's not a big weight room guy.
Right.
For a reason why. So once he completes those 2 mandatory lifts, at that point it's about the daily and game day activation. So what we try to do before every practice session, based on that guy's, movement patterns, based on his injury history, to take him through a series of, activation movements starting, from the ground up. So if a guy has, ankle restrictions, and, we'll go there to make sure that's moving properly, then we work our way up to the knee, making sure there's VMO firing activation, glute med work, core, just working up that chain. And, depending on that guy's, injury history, depending on their, their development in our program, I'll steer more in one direction. So every day there's some sort of, activation before practice, and then post practice, we have a huge facility where we have a cold chamber, hot and cold tub. So we have masseuse there after every practice, and they have a specific, program to follow for each guy's, situation. So yeah, he may want a total body massage, but we know he's having some issues with the IT band, or he has some other issues. Make sure you hit that as well too. So like I said, I'm in a fortunate situation, where I have a team around me, and we have to just make sure we communicate to make sure guys are doing, what they need to be doing.
Sure.
And typically on game day as well too in the NBA, you have to use that as a training day.
Right.
Especially for guys that are, low minute guys. I'll get those guys in the morning. In the NBA, we have this, shoot around that we have in the morning before games. And typically, when that's done, it's a light intensity session to get guys up, to get guys fueled and to get them moving on the game plan for that night. And at that point, I'll lift the guy either before that session or after. And then maybe for the veteran guys, they may want to do some more advanced functional training, maybe 2 hours before the game at the arena. And like you touched on before, we don't have access to all the facilities in the NBA. So on those facilities that I don't have access to, I take it to the court. So I'll be on the baseline while guys are getting warm before the game. I'll have them going through different series of movements, whether it's joint mobility work, whether it's activation work. We may do reaction training, whatever that guy's program calls for. I can do that right there on the baseline. Just working out of my bag.
Yeah, and I've seen you cart that bag around. What are some of the tools that that you found very useful in kind of a, when with special forces we call it a flyaway kit. I'm sure it's kind of some sort of kit that you got with you that you're going to every hotel with. What are some of the tools that you found to be very, very useful that are mobile like that?
Well, I'm a really big tool guy, and I alternate, depending on what's going on in the season, because I like to keep it fresh for guys. So, oftentimes I may carry, a speed ladder in there to do some different things in there. We have this really neat system called the Fit Light, which is this, reactive-based system that comes in a hard case. I can set that up immediately. I can attach a TRX system, to the base, of the basketball hoop. I have obviously different types of bands, mini bands. Soft tissue is huge for us, so I'm always around lacrosse balls for guys to work the bottom of their feet. Trigger points, get in the psoas. There's also different types of, jump rope variations I have in there. I really, coach, I just keep it, full of different things. I never know exactly what a guy's going to need.
Yeah, that's always the key, right? It goes back to one of our principles that we talked about way back when in that internship program is the variety principle. You got to have lots of different tools, especially with that type of population where it's always the grass is always greener. There's always looking for a magic pill or potion or something, some sort of competitive advantage. And so having a bunch of different tools, I'm sure, keeps things the spice up and keeps them engaged. What are some of the ways, because you're working with, obviously one of the most, recognized athletes in all of sports, but then, superstars at every level. What are some of the ways that you've gotten them to buy into you personally? You're a guy that, fantastic athlete, obviously fit guy, but you didn't play in the NBA, you didn't play college basketball. How are you able to get the guys that are the best in the world to buy into you as a coach and believe that you can get them better on the court?
I think it starts with, just how I approach, how I communicate with guys. And, the fact that I've been around now for a little bit of time, a lot of the guys that are here, will speak on my behalf, and they'll say, hey, give this guy a chance, give him your time, he can help you. I try to talk to every guy when they first come to us and try to figure out their needs and try to make them feel important with every training session. I like to give them my undivided attention. And I want them to know that, my sole purpose for being here is to enhance their performance. That's what I care about. It's not, I can't control your minutes being played. I can't control your contract situation. But what I can do is give you my best every single day. So know that, if I text you about a workout session, it's because it's going to help you on the court. If I need you to condition after a game, it's because I need you to be ready when coach calls your number. If I need you to sit down and meet with the nutritionist, It's because, you know what, your body composition is an area that we can improve on. And if you get control of this, maybe you can get more minutes, to help your career. So, that's how I approach it. And I try to be as consistent as I can with guys. I don't treat every guy the same. Every guy's background is different. Every guy, responds differently. And I have to find the right way to go about doing that. And in terms of training, Pilates, yoga, or different avenues that I approach to get a guy, committed to training that doesn't like, traditional, weight room activities. Right. So I've had to step outside of the box, to accommodate maybe an older veteran guy that has seen results with yoga, or he enjoys training on the reformer Pilates, or he enjoys doing mat Pilates. And it's up to me to be able to find ways to integrate that into the program.
Yeah, you mentioned that, working with a variety of guys that typically, and it's 100 times better than it was, a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but still dealing with a population that isn't doesn't traditionally like weight room, or has maybe come up through high school program, college program, and obviously a great professional program. Add on top of that, when professional sports, you're not dealing with, you got 18, 19, 20-year-olds, but you also have the 32-year-old and the 33-year-old. How do you continually learn, challenge yourself to have this big tool bag of not just gadgets, but this brain bank of exercises and methods and recovery tools and all these things? What are the ways? I mean, you're on the road probably more than half the year. How do you find the time to learn and what are some of the ways that you go about doing that?
Well, that's a big challenge. I think for a lot of strength and conditioning coaches in the NBA is finding that for grown professional development. And, I can speak on what I really enjoy fitness as a hobby for myself. And I take that as also an opportunity to see, what's practical and what can work in my environment. So in my downtime, if I have an hour to go take a yoga session, then I'll say, okay, well, this particular movement, could help this basketball player get into the stance. This particular type of meditation, could be helpful for our team, as, we're trying to make our push towards the playoffs, or for example, Pilates, if we have a guy that has, 5 years ago, I had a guy that had a, really bad growing pull, and and then he had a sports hernia. So from that, we said, well, maybe we should look into Pilates, where it's a safe environment, and see if we can re-educate him, how to neuromuscularly fire and make sure the symmetry is there. So now I have this really big fascination with learning more about Pilates. It's been around for hundreds of years, but I see a lot of application, for our athletes. So, for me, it's just continuing to build my hobby, because fitness is my hobby, strength training and Olympic lifting. I can't do those things with my guys on a daily basis, but it's a strong passion. I'm always interested in figure out if I do get that one guy that was in a collegiate environment that he was exposed to Olympic lifts, well, I'm equipped to be able to continue to work with him. So for me, it's every day, figuring out who can I learn from, whether it's a basketball coach, or not. It may be, a soccer coach, or it may be, rugby, or it may be, swimming. I just got to learn different ways, to get better as a strength coach and not get stagnant with where I'm at, because I'm in this specialized sport where these guys have been doing this one particular, movements patterns, for years.
Right.
So, for me, it's just, coach, talking to you, reading, whatever I can do while I'm on the road traveling to continue to just get better as a strength coach and as a person.
Well, that's obviously why you've had so much success, is that you make the time, and it's not easy, and it's not easy for any of us, but the great ones do. Well, buddy, I know you got to get running. We always kind of end the show with some resources here. So, really quick, what's the best piece of coaching advice you've ever received?
It's about growth, not perfection. I think a lot of us that's in this, where we're at right now, we're A-type personalities. We're probably harder on ourselves than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And it's, being kind to ourselves and just realizing that, your job is important. And I know you want to be great at it, but you can't define yourself by being a strength and conditioning coach for the Cavaliers or, whatever team that is.
Absolutely.
So that's where, I try to remember that daily, is that, yes, I'm very committed to my job and doing the best I can, but also having a family is very important to me, having balance, knowing other events, social events that's going on in the world is very important to me, and not just being in my own world, so I lose compassion for, other people in this world.
Absolutely. What about a book, app, and website recommendation?
Right now, I'm reading a yoga book right now. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know if a lot of people, will be interested in it, but it's actually called Om Girl. Like at the end of yoga, there's this meditational sound that you make, and it's, O-M, Om, it's a sound, it's Girl, Girl. I'm reading that book right now. The journey of this, yoga teacher, and how,
Cool.
she left corporate America, and is now, running her own business, and she's been successful doing that.
Oh, that's great.
Training and conditioning, is a, magazine that comes out, regularly. That's something easy that I can throw into my bag, and I can also catch up on my CEU's requirements as well too.
Yeah.
So, right now, those are the two things that I recommend, just to, if you're interested in yoga, obviously, there's apps, there's, Pinterest. There's tons of ways. It may sound funny. You may think it's like, for housewives. But I use the technology to get what I need out of it.
Yeah. That's it's funny you say that, because I just downloaded Pinterest the other day.
Yeah.
And it's also, obviously I do quite a bit with social media, but that was a platform that I haven't really used. But you're right. There's tons of great information on there, and so I appreciate you mentioning that. Well, buddy, I know you got to run. I don't want to make you late, but man, you are the best. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the friendship, and just so freaking pumped about what's going on in your world right now and how well you're doing it. And thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing.
Coach, just thank you again for giving me an opportunity to be here on Met today. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
That's it for this episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Thanks to this week's guest as well as our sponsors for bringing this episode to you for free. Make sure to check out ronmckeefery.com, where you can join our mailing list, find the show notes, including all the links and resources mentioned, and information about Coach McKeefery's other products. While you are there, please join Coach McKeefery in the comments section thanking our guest for sharing. If you haven't subscribed to Iron Game Chalk Talk on YouTube or iTunes yet, make sure to do so. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome. Coach McKeefery can be found on Twitter at @RMcKeefery, on Facebook and YouTube at /Ron.McKeefery. That's it for this week. Be sure to check back next week for another great episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk.